crowd so far from the very beginning of the series in the first of this month. Now that says a lot about Aaron. Really, I appreciate the fact he can draw a crowd of interested people and people of goodwill who are also concerned about this subject, no doubt. And I'm proud to call him my son-in-law. And I'm going to say this, you may not like it. You need to be preaching regularly. I mean, look at this. This is nice. But he has told us he would be glad to finish the series where we're talking about the issue that in some quarters we are losing our youth, and we want to know how to fix that problem. And one of the subtopics we felt like was probably having to do with social media and other aspects of modern life, including all that technology does to our youth, and probably does to us too. So I'm sure much of this will be applicable to each one of us. So without more to say, I'm going to introduce formally Aaron Stice, my son-in-law, as he talks about this crucial problem.
Apparently is why I'm finishing last. And no, they're not here to see me. They're here to see me fail or mess up, and whatever. That's what people are here for. Now, and all jokes aside, this is a really important topic, and I like having the ability to speak about this because it's in a realm that I work all the time. In fact, all of my brother-in-laws are technology gurus. I am not as much of a guru, but I do spend enough time in technology to understand some of the nuances and intricacies of it, and some of the problems that we can face with that. I work in film production, and while I can film something here in Georgia, I can have a director in California sitting and watching it in real time. I can have editors in New York at the exact same time already starting to cut it. There's a lot of things that can happen in technology, and given part of my background, I hope tonight we're able to tie technology to some of the dangers that we can face with it. So the topic is terrifying technology and sinister social media. Now, we are going to be using some technology tonight. In fact, you'll see the screen blink every now and then because my iPad is controlling a laptop back there that is wirelessly connected to another computer back there that is displaying it on these screens. Tell that to somebody 10 years ago and they would think you're nuts. Technology is insane. In fact, technology can change so fast that even in the blink of an eye, everything can change. And all of the things that you think that you have in place to maybe protect yourself or your kids or whatever, guess what? That is old news about 10 minutes ago. So we've got to be conscious of it. We've got to be aware of it. We got to know kind of what technology and social media in particular. I'm going to really kind of hone in on social media tonight because to me, that's where the bulk of the problems come from. And it's not just in a technological phase, but it's also in a psychological phase. And we'll see some of that tonight. And so what I want to talk about tonight is really kind of three different things. We're in a war on the mind. I mean, I know you've probably heard something similar to that before. We've got to guard our hearts and minds, and it is absolutely true. And that is because we are being programmed to change our minds. But tonight we're going to look at three different things. First thing we're going to look at is how social media and technology actually work. That's going to get kind of boring. We'll move through that kind of quick. Secondly, we are going to look at my contacts are so messed up. I thought they said the origins of unfettered access. I was like, that's not right. The dangers of unfettered access. How dangerous is it that you can get on Google and search anything at any time? We're going to talk about that. And then lastly, we're going to talk about how we can win. How we can actually overcome this. Because even though we can see floods of people being persuaded and moved by things on the internet or whatever, how can we actually win? Well, we're going to discuss that because we don't have to be one of those sheep. So tonight, I hope that this doesn't get too dry on you because there is some really dry stuff in here, but I nerd out on that kind of stuff. So I'm going to enjoy it. You guys can watch me enjoy it if you like. But I'd like for you to take some notes if you can, because this gets into some really intricate and detailed stuff. So first of all, technology. The good and the bad. Now, I want you to see that image on the right-hand side. Does anybody know what that is? That is ChatGPT. If you have ChatGPT, I encourage you to go to ChatGPT and ask it how many R's are in strawberry. The word strawberry contained 2 letter R's. I argued with this thing for like 15 minutes last night. I was like, are you sure? Am I going crazy? And it was like, nope, only 2 R's in strawberry. So then I was like, okay, we got to figure out where this problem's at. How many R's are in straw? Well, there's no R's in straw. Okay, I gotcha. See, technology, and as advanced as it is, and some of the things that we can do with it, still has limitations. And those limitations are always built around the people who have made the program. Now, that's going to play into when we start talking about social media, because the people that made the program are able to influence what you see. There may be some people out there that have gone to ChatGPT and asked how many R's are in strawberry, and they're running around going, you idiots have been spelling it wrong, there's only 2 R's. We got to be careful what we're being influenced by, but we're not being influenced by technology in as much as we're being influenced by the people behind the technology. So, the good part about technology, it allows us to connect. You know, I had put out on social media that we were doing this event this evening, and a lot of people saw it. Neat, we have connected. A lot of people have asked, is it going to be recorded? Neat, they have been connected. That's a good thing. Social media has allowed me to keep up with friends that I have not seen in ages, has allowed me to make new friends. The whole reason why I do a mission work in Uruguay is because of a guy that I met on Instagram from Uruguay. Connections. That's a good thing. So what are some of the negative things about technology and social media in particular? Well, it's simple. Connections. Some of the bad that comes along with that is the connections that you make. And we're going to look at that a little more specifically, again, when we get into the social media aspect of all this. The word technology really only means to advance. So when we hear that term, we don't need to instantly discredit it. We need to actually somewhat embrace it, because we need to advance. How many of us could benefit from having better study habits? How many of us could benefit from having better sleep? How many of us could benefit from not spending as much money on gas when we drive our car? Or you know, how effective our lights work in our house? Well, we went from horse and buggy to car, and that car drank about 10 miles per gallon, and now they have cars that'll do 30 miles per gallon, and now we have lights that are no longer incandescent, they're LED. I mean, folks, technology is a good thing. We just have to control how it controls us. But again, technology definitely has a bad side to it. I don't know how many of y'all actually saw this, but Mark Zuckerberg, the owner of Facebook, released a statement this week stating that Facebook influenced the 2020 election. No, we think we did. No, we might have. They admitted it. And now they have changed their policies because they've realized that what they did was wrong. An entire country's trajectory was changed because of social media. Technology does have a bad side. Now, I am going to give a recommendation. I don't know if many of y'all have seen this film on Netflix. If you haven't, I encourage you to watch it. A lot of what this film talks about is fairly understood. We kind of understand a lot of this, but you get to actually hear it from the people who helped create a lot of these social media platforms, who have kind of been detractors now of that whole social media movement, and they have put together this social dilemma, this film, about how social media actually functions in changing who you are, in influencing everything you think about. And it's rather devious in how they do it. But if you want to watch something that give you a little more insight into how this all works, I recommend checking that film out. So, how do they do it? Well, quite frankly, social media exploits our weaknesses. But Aaron, I don't have any weaknesses. Let me ask you, have you ever been talking to somebody about a toaster, and then the next thing you see is toaster advertisements in your phone? Now, I've never talked to anybody about a toaster, but you get the idea, right? So, how does that work? Well, it's quite simple. You aren't probably going to buy a toaster on the first time that you see the advertisement. But what you are seeing is not there by accident, and they know that. And in order to get you to buy that toaster or whatever it is that you expressed interest in, first thing they're going to do is find something that you like. So social media and technology are businesses. First and foremost, they're not just there for you to be able to share photos. And so with a business, they want your money. Because time equals money. The more time that you spend on their site, the more times they can show you about that toaster, and eventually, they're going to change your mind about it. Because even though you may not have a want for that, every single thing you have inside of social media, every single thing that's on the internet is categorized. You can set web filters to filter out explicit things. You can set web filters to filter out childish things. And that is because every single thing that is on the internet has been categorized in some way, shape, or form. It can be automotive, it can be, and the list can go on forever. But what you show interest in is what they're going to show you. Because once you click that thing, they want you to click something else similar to it. And when you click something else similar to it, yes, you'll get to see something interesting that you like, but right there beside it, somewhere along the line, is going to be an ad about that toaster. You see that ad long enough, and eventually, when that toast comes out burnt for the very last time and you've had enough of it, you're going straight back to buy that toaster. So they know what you're watching, they know what you like, and so they just show it to you over and over and over, hidden inside of the things that you want to see that have nothing to do with that. It is programmed, and it's called an algorithm. It is designed to find the things that you like, the things that you click on, and it is going to show you more of that. Just so you will spend more time on the app so they can spend more time showing you what they want you to buy. Now, all of that is well and good, right? All of that is a lot of fun. That's how social media actually works. So the whole concept again of social media, it is a business. They want you to stay on there. So they change the formula in order to get you to see things that you've already expressed interest in. That way they can advertise to you on the backside. Now, what's the problem with that? I'm a grown adult. I can just say no to the toaster. We just had Mark Zuckerberg tell us that they influenced the 2020 election. They changed the election. What else are they slipping into your feed to help change who you currently are? Maybe it's some other kind of agenda. Maybe it is something that you are just innocently looking at love stuff. You want to find things that are sweet and nice and commendable, and you're finding romantic poems or whatever, and then you see a video pop up, excuse me, that is more pushing a certain type of agenda. But it's just one. And maybe you watch that one. Just because you know that another video is going to come up, and what Facebook sees, or Instagram or TikTok or whatever, what they see out of that is this person did not object, send them more. And so slowly over time, what that ends up doing is indoctrinating us, changing the way that we think or how we feel about things. And that unfettered access that we have is constantly being manipulated by those above us, those that have created it, the elites. They know what they're doing. So then how do we have dangers of unfettered access then? Well, this is where we get to really nerd out. If you weren't bored before, buckle up, because this is where it gets crazy. Essentially, we're going to talk about 3 different chemical processes of the brain. There are 3 chemicals. Actually, there's a myriad of chemicals that kind of regulate everything in our brain, from happiness to mood to depression to anxiety. All of these different things, neurotransmitters and other types of chemicals, we'll just say, those all play an intricate role in all sorts of different functions of the body. But we're going to focus on 3 tonight. We're going to focus the first one on dopamine. Now, dopamine, if you have ever the chemicals in your brain has released a neurotransmitter called dopamine, and it is what allows the sending of information between different synapses and neurons. Without getting too deep, it basically makes you feel good. You feel good. That's why we call it the feel good. Or not the feel good, but that's why we call it the happiness, right? It's what makes us feel happy. Well, next we have another particular chemical called serotonin. Serotonin also works in a very similar way, except for serotonin works in more of a mood enhancement. So your mood heightens or lowers depending on the amount of serotonin that you have in your body. If you've ever been diagnosed with something like some sort of depressive disorder, what they're going to give you is a selective serotonin uptake inhibitor. And what that does is that stops your synapses from reuptaking serotonin, so that way it stays inside of that pathway longer, making you feel happier longer. Great, right? But there is a correlation between dopamine and serotonin, and the way those work is when our dopamine is high, generally our serotonin is a little bit higher. When our dopamine comes down, our serotonin comes down with it, generally. So when we start to feel good, we feel really good. When we start to feel bad, we feel really bad. Now, the last one is really kind of the most important one when we see problems with social media. This particular drug is called, or not drug, but chemical, is called oxytocin. This is the connection chemical. This chemical is released when mothers hold their babies for the first time. This chemical is released whenever there is a deep sensation of love or a sensation of belonging in things of more than just, I'm in a particular group. No, I am that group. Oxytocin is generally released whenever we see our family members. It makes us feel connected. It's important. You'll see why in just a moment. Essentially, well, we're going to run through just a quick idea of understanding of this, if I can get this to work. All right, here's a way for you to understand this a little bit. All right, so when we view something we like, we release dopamine. I like that. That's neat. That's nice. On Facebook, I'm a big fan, for some reason, of restoration videos of old metal things. I don't get it. Like a little metal truck from like the 1920s or whatever that's all rusted over. Do those guys will just take that apart? Like, I don't walk away from that thing being like, yeah! But like, I feel good about it, you know? Like, man, that was neat. I like that. Which is why Facebook floods my page with it, right? But so whenever we view something that we like, we get that hit of dopamine. Well, with that, our mood elevates because we associate with what's going on. It has brought us some kind of connection in some way, right? So we have our serotonin being released, and we begin to socially conform. If this is a group think, we begin to socially conform to whatever the mindset is. Let's get really polarizing. Right now, there's two political systems in the United States, essentially. We have the Democrats and the Republicans. On one side stands a group that says that abortion is wrong. On the other side is a group that says that a woman should have choice. When we see something that we instantly associate with, we have the release of dopamine and serotonin. We begin to conform to that mindset because we have already seen a connection with two other things that we understand about them. So once we begin to conform to that mindset, it makes us feel part of the tribe. I'm going to use that term tribe because when you think about it, from our ancestral background, we have always had tribes, and there's always been great pride in our tribes. You know, my grandmother was Scottish. She comes from a Scottish clan. And if you know anything about the Scots, they didn't like other clans. You weren't allowed anywhere near them, or else you're going to get kilted to death. I don't know how that works. So the whole idea of the tribe means you are accepted and you are part of a group. Christians, we're in a tribe. We are in a special group. We conform our mindsets, not to just the wills of whatever some person thinks, but the wills of whatever God thinks, obviously. We change the way that we think. We change the way that we act. We change the way that we talk because we begin to socially conform. And once we feel part of that tribe, we have the release of oxytocin, that bonding chemical, which is often why we will do things for people in our tribe that we sometimes won't do for maybe distant family members. We assimilate to that group because of how that interaction has made us feel. You see how the serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin kind of work together? Here's another example real quick. I know we're kind of already running out of time. For instance, you post something on Facebook or Instagram. You're sitting there, your phone is in your pocket, it vibrates, you pull it out, and you see that somebody has liked or commented on a photo that you have posted. Wow, I am popular, right? We feel good about ourselves. That's that release of dopamine. And we just can't wait for that phone to buzz again because I'm liked. Somebody has liked my photo. Our mood elevates because we feel valued. Somebody has valued my time and effort enough to show me appreciation. We are valued. But there is no tribe for us to essentially associate with, so we simply are impressed with ourselves. We repeat that action expecting similar or more likes and comments to fuel our reward system. If you guys remember back to when we had talked about habits last year or so, we operate on a cravings and reward system. That's how our brain works. All of this is part of our reward system. Now, what happens to that in regression? Because let's face it, we've all posted stuff that nobody has liked, right? I mean, I shared that post about this tonight to like 1,500 people, and like 5 of my friends saw it.
That's pretty good.
But that's how it works though, right? We share things and, oh no, what happens if it doesn't get liked? Well, quite frankly, something bad actually happens. In our brains, what happens whenever we do not get the likes or we do not find the connection with the group, we get rejected. We get rejected from that tribe. We want to be a part of that group. We want that group to be a part of us, but they have actually rejected us. It's just a simple like on a photo. I get it, but this is how our brains work. The 3 chemicals decrease. We had anticipation when we posted that photo. Maybe someone will show me appreciation. Maybe somebody can find some value in it. Well, nobody has found value in it and nobody has appreciated you. Your chemicals begin to decrease and we are left feeling outcast, alone, depressed, and unvalued. We look for connections to fill this void. Husbands and wives, the reason why there is such an epidemic of cheating inside of marriages in the United States is because we do not spend enough time putting our spouses in our tribe. They feel rejected, alone, depressed, and unvalued. They will seek that affirmation somewhere else. Young people, same thing applies. Social media, when you are trying to assimilate to a group and they reject you, not in the way that like, oh, you're ugly, we just don't want you around. When they do not conform to your expectations, this is what ends up happening. If anyone else challenges that particular tribe or our tribe, we get defensive. That's how you know when somebody is lock and step inside of that tribe. All right, second, when the likes and comments don't deliver on our expectations, our chemicals drop, we become depressed and anxious about why we are not liked. Have you ever posted something and when nobody responded, your answer was, why does nobody like me? That's our mindset. Because of the addictive nature of social media, we repeat actions hoping for a change in response. That's the basic breakdown of how this works inside of the mind. But one of the biggest reasons why social media is so dangerous, and especially for young people, is FOMO. Have you ever heard that before? FOMO. Fear of missing out. I'll be honest with you, I get it all the time. There's this one guy that I watch on YouTube all the time. His name is Peter McKinnon. Awesome photographer, awesome videographer. He's got 8 bazillion followers on Instagram. He's got a full head of hair, you know, like he's cool. That guy is cool. and he's riding around in this old truck, and he's going to all these cool places, and he's only like 35 years old. Y'all, I am almost 45, and here I am thinking, I've missed it. I'll never be as cool as that guy. So I've got to be as cool as I can right now. I want to be like that. I want to go to cool places. I want to have an old truck and a cool dog. Fear of missing out. But what we don't see in the fear of missing out of things, we see all of these wonderful things that people are doing or people are having happen to them. They're going on all these vacations. Isn't it always odd that when we see all of the celebrities, and especially sports stars, athletes, that they always have these extravagant lives, and then it's almost without fail, 2 or 3 years later, they're suddenly getting a divorce, or they're hopped up on drugs in a rehab, or they've done something stupid that has landed them in jail? Folks, we have fear of missing out because we only see the highlight reel. That's it. We don't take into account all of the negative things that that person has gone through to get there, or what is currently going on in their lives. And I'll be honest with you, when you spend all of your time trying to impress the people on the internet, you have very little time for self-development, for building of your faith, and for being able to stand against the depression that is eventually going to come from being so high up that you're actually alone. Be careful about how you compare your life to those that you see on the internet. It is not real. It is not. These actions, fear of missing out, the repeat of the chemical up and down inside of our brains, these are what creates an addiction. Now, I'm going to read this. There is a number of these. If you would like that link to this this particular publication, this is a cohort on a study on social media and addiction. If you would like that link, let me know and I can send it to you. There's a couple of these. I won't read all of them, but this one says, a large number of foreign studies have convincingly shown that pronounced comorbidity of internet addiction with a wide range of psychopathological conditions, depressive disorder, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder have the strongest association with internet addiction, while anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, social phobia, and suicidal behavior also have a similar but significant association. That fear of missing out, that wanting to be someone else, wanting to be liked by someone else, wanting to be admired by the internet, wanting to be the top, that addiction drives a lot of these feelings. And this is the one that I probably will not read. It is much, much longer. But I will kind of sum this up for you. Essentially speaking, that when it comes to constant and pervasive internet and social media use, it says, accompanied by a significant violation of inhibitory control, also meaning increased impulsivity as a common factor in various forms of addictive behavior, stop signal task, which tells you, stop doing what I'm doing, it's harmful, and decision making and working memory. It has been discovered that, like other types of chemical and behavioral addictions, internet addiction is characterized by an impairment of the metabolism of dopamine, serotonin, and opioids, and some of the neurotransmitters, which affect reward processing, executive function, and salience attribution, and habit formation. Internet, the constant unfettered access, leads to physiological change. So let's talk about this connection then real quick. Because that's really what we think about when we think about social media and internet. Are you really connected? Social and tech allows us to feel connected. However, it is lacking the physical and emotional engagement. Because of this perceived connection, we consume their content. The content may challenge how we naturally think or believe, but that conscience wears down under the notions of this person is real, they get me, and I admire them. So ultimately, there is no actual connection. It's actually just influence. The internet is not there for you to make connections. It is there to influence you. One of the biggest problems that we have is when we see the people and the things on the internet, these talking heads, these people trying to push agendas, whether good or bad, when they are trying to push agendas, we end up disassociating real life from what we're actually seeing. It's more like watching a television show, but somehow we feel connected to them because we know that these people are real. They're not fictional characters. And with that, our empathy drives up. We feel for them. We know people who may have a certain persuasion and they feel outcast and beat down, and we feel for that. We do, and we should. But we should never allow it to influence who we are or how we think. Protecting our self-actualization is the hardest part in dealing with social media. Realizing who you are and who you want to be. Be very, very careful of that. So, this is one of the biggest points that I want to make. We become who we are around. Period. You can read from a number of different highly acclaimed books on business practice. They will tell you that if you want to be a successful business person, start hanging out with successful business people. If you want to be a great musician, start hanging out with great musicians. If you want to be a better Christian, start hanging out with your knowledgeable Christian friends. Whoever you hang around or submit yourself to or put yourself in subjection to on a regular basis is who you will become. We pull from the things from people that we like, and we begin to adapt them to who we are. But this is a big, big part of it. Kids are more susceptible because they are looking for a tribe. If you remember middle school, why it is so difficult is because that is the time in a kid's life when they are trying to figure out who they are and where they belong. It is very, very hard to deal with. Things they view as contrary to their beliefs are the first dismissed in the tribe. But then they begin to question their beliefs rather than using their beliefs to question the tribe. Beliefs become secondary in the advancement of belonging. Some of y'all may have done the exact same thing in your past too. When I had started drinking and doing drugs, it wasn't just because I was walking down the street when I was a kid thinking, I sure would like to drink some drinks and do some drugs. It was because the first couple of times I said no were enough. But then that no began to get harder to say because I wanted to belong. If something stands out in your mind in a particular tribe as being even so much as wrong, question it. Don't just question that particular thing. Question the motives of the people who are doing it. Why are you pushing this? Why are you asking me to do this? What is your end goal in mind with this? Parents, this is important because we have to get down to the why our kids are doing the certain things that they're doing, not just telling them, no, don't do it. It's important for you to be able to understand why. Once we understand why, we can understand the how. So, what is something that we can do? Well, right off the bat, this is what I'm going to give you. Based on psychologist Melissa Hunt, she led a study on social media, and she said, using less social media than you normally would leads to significant decreases in both depression and loneliness. Based on everything that we have just talked about, it all boils down to that. These effects are particularly pronounced for folks who were more depressed when they came into this particular study. You want to start to protect your mind? Remove your mind from the things that can do you harm. Duh. Right? Start there. It's been about 10 years ago I gave a talk down at Carrollton Church of Christ. And I had talked similarly about these types of things just with Facebook in general. And I had done an experiment myself for about 6 months before I gave that talk where I had removed Facebook off of my phone. If I wanted to get to Facebook on my phone, I actually had to go to Safari, log into Facebook, and then use the web browser to browse it. Do you know how often I used used Facebook? 0. Do you know how much of a hassle that was to log in every time? It's like Facebook doesn't want you to get in Facebook sometimes. Find ways to put a hurdle in your habit. If you can change the access to something, it can change your habit. Make it hard. Atomic habits. That's exactly how it works. All right, so how do we win as we wrap up here? Well, first and foremost, parents, I want you to know that you are accountable for what you allow your kids to be around. You are accountable. It is easy. It is easy to just hand a tablet to a kid who is being annoying, who is being unruly. It is easy to hand that to them and just be like, you're out of my head now. You're out of my mind. I am at peace. Just enjoy. It's easy to do that. It was when Miles was little. We had done this. We had handed him a phone in order to play a kid's game on this phone. And he's playing the game, and we're cheap. We don't buy these games. If you can get it for free, I'm not buying it, right? You just got to look at the advertisements. In this kid's game was an advertisement. And this kid's game is not made for 20-year-old kids. It's made for 5-year-old kids. There was an advertisement for bikinis. And so here's Miles playing this game. This advertisement comes on, and Ava screams from the back seat, Miles is looking at inappropriate stuff. Good job, Tattletale.
Good job.
It's easy, but do we really know what we're subjecting them to? The best things in life do not come easy. Don't take the easy path. Now, I don't believe in sheltering. I think that that woefully prepares our kids for what they're inevitably going to face in the future, but I believe that as parents, if we are going to be accountable for who our kids are around, we need to lead them through what they are facing, not just tell them not to worry or not to do that. So how do we do this? Well, we need to limit access and engage. So what do I mean? Engage with your kids. Your kids will mimic you in everything. Thoughts, actions, words, and characteristics. If you are on your phone, they will be on theirs. If you react mad, depressed, upset, etc. to things on social media, so will they, even if they have not had a chance to get on social media yet. Engaging means, and listen to this, mindfully putting your kids before your own addictions or laziness. We must be active. We have to intentionally focus on things. See, we must physically engage in order to build up, encourage, teach, and lead by example. This gives people confidence that they belong to a tribe, are intimately connected to it and valued by it. No engagement leads to no identity in the family and no reason to respect culture or beliefs in that family. Hebrews chapter 10, verses 24 and 25, and let us consider how to stir one another up to love and good works. Now, I'm not much of someone that cooks, but I can't imagine you stir something by sticking a spoon in it and then going and sitting down. That's what we do to our kids. We stick a phone in it and we go and sit down. We got to figure out how to stir up. And it continues in verse 25, not neglecting to meet together. Now, I don't know about you, but during that COVID time when everybody was kind of locked up and you watched church like it was a Netflix show, did you have the same type of encouragement and connection that you have face to face? Well, no, of course not. It was convenient. We got to watch church in our pajamas. It was easy. We didn't have to leave the house. But it was lonely. And it was discouraging sometimes because you weren't able to really have that human connection. Parents, we need to have that human connection with our kids. I'm guilty, 100% guilty. I work so much that sometimes it's hard for me to just put the email down just to find out how my kids are doing. We must make that connection because being part of the tribe is of the utmost importance when it comes to protecting your kids. If they feel as though they truly belong, they won't seek anywhere else. Look at me here. Not look at me. Look at this here. In Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 12, we see, for the Lord reproves him who he loves, as a father the son in whom he delights. Sometimes you will be tried so hard, and I put no cap in there for Miles when he watches this later. You will be tried, parents. They are going to try you. But when you do have to take negative actions, it needs to be done in love and communicated that way. And that is easier said than done, isn't it? You must give a reason why. And it must be communicated that your tribe does not hold those actions as something to be done in that tribe. It's not just, don't do that because I told you not to do that. Don't get on those sites because I told you not to get on those sites. Don't go there because it influences who you are. It changes your thought processes. It changes your beliefs. And whether you like it or not, they're going to influence you to do things that you don't want to do. It is difficult to reprimand, but it must be done in love. In fact, in Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 4, it says, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Do not exclude them from the tribe. Teach and lead them. Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 6, train up a child in the way that he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it. Now, there's been a lot of debate on this particular scripture because it is a Proverbs. It's a book of wise sayings. Not necessarily every time you teach your kids right, they won't leave the church. That's not what that means. But we do need to make a differentiation between teach and train. Training and teaching are two different things. We taught Miles how to kick a soccer ball, but his training is what allows him to do it without thinking about it. We taught Ava, or encouraged Ava in her drawing ability when she was very young because she loved it. But it has been her training that has allowed her to now beautifully create things from her mind. When I was in training, I was in special operations training down in Florida. And there was a group of Delta operators. We had a CQB building where you would practice close quarter combat drills. And so we're doing our training, and our training was a live fire training on the range or whatever. But these guys, they lined up on a stairwell, 2-story building, and they practiced breaching the door, going upstairs, and securing the door from the second building on the second stairs of that building. That's simple. That is simple stuff. Once you get a hang of it in the military, that is simple stuff. These guys didn't do it once. They didn't do it twice. They didn't do it 3 times. They did the exact same drill all day long. From sun up till sundown, they did the exact same drill over and over and over again. And this was already following their 4 hours of PT that they had before that. Now, when we talk about Delta operators, they are the top of the top of the top of the top. I imagine that if God wanted to actually hire like special operators, these would be the guys. They are proficient in what they do. And this is why. See, most of us, we will train something until we get it right. Delta's mindset is you train it until you never get it wrong. When we think about training ourselves in our spiritual warfare or for spiritual warfare, are we training or are we just reading about it? When we train our children, is it something that we mention once and just kind of pass it along, or is it something that we go over and over and over again? Folks, we need to train our children because we have an adversary who is looking to not only devour our souls, but the souls of our children. Parents, it is of utmost importance that we spend as much time possible with our children to lead and protect them. We must take actual action in what we're doing and not just simply tell them. We have to actually lead by example. It is not hopeless. Give a place where technology and social media aren't needed to feel a connection. It takes intentionality, watchfulness, training, being an example, and a real tribe for everyone to be proud of. Part of that tribe of your family needs to be in the tribe of Christ. As Christians, parents, it's not just good enough to hand them a Bible. We've got to teach them. We've got to show them. We've got to lead by example. With that kind of training, we significantly reduce the ability for the outside world to influence and pull our kids not only away from the church, but away from our families. Now, one quick question for you before we close this out. Technology is really interesting. It does some amazing things. I snuck technology into this presentation. I don't know if you noticed it. Every last one of those pictures are AI generated. Not a single one of them were real. Nothing in that entire presentation, no image in that entire presentation was an actual photo, save the one from The Social Dilemma. That's it. When we think about how technology can influence us, we need to be awfully aware that technology has the ability to put real ideas of fake things in your head. We must protect ourselves from it. But maybe you're here this evening and you want to have a tribe. You want to be part of that tribe. You want to be a better example or leader. And you know that you're not going to be able to do it alone. You need strength in order to do that. It's funny because Paul says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. See, without Christ, you are significantly lacking in strength. And I realize that Philippians 4 is being taken out of context here. But the idea is still the same. You aren't going to make it on your own. And maybe this evening you are ready to either give your life to Christ, to put him on in baptism, to have your sins washed away, to be raised a new creature with a free and clear mind. And then you are ready to walk with him. Or maybe you need the prayers of the church in order to encourage or strengthen you. Don't hesitate. Why don't you come now while together we stand and while we sing.